The moment my boss screamed that if I took one more step she would fire me, time fractured into something thin and sharp, like glass under bare feet. The office around us felt too clean, too quiet, the fluorescent lights buzzing like they were holding their breath. I remember the weight of every failure I had ever carried pressing down on my chest at once. The months of swallowed pride, the sleepless nights, the prayers whispered in my car before work. And in that suspended second, instead of stepping back like I always did, I stepped forward. Not in anger, not in defiance, but in desperation mixed with truth, and I kissed her, because it was the only honest thing left inside me. Before I tell you how everything fell apart and somehow came together again, pause for just a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when people stop running from their hearts, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. My name is Nathan Brooks, and this happened in Chicago, Illinois, in a glass and steel marketing firm that looked impressive from the outside and hollow on the inside. I was 28, overqualified on paper, underconfident in real life, and carrying the kind of grief you don't list on resumes. My father, Michael Brooks, had been a pastor in a small Ohio town, a man who believed work was worship and kindness was strength. When he passed away suddenly, I took the first job I could get to help my mother, Ruth, keep the house. That job landed me under the leadership of my boss, Rebecca Collins. Rebecca was everything people whispered about in break rooms: brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. She wore her authority like armor, sharp eyes framed by long chestnut hair, always moving, always in control. People respected her results and feared her moods. I told myself I only admired her professionalism, but admiration slowly twisted into something deeper and more dangerous. I noticed the way exhaustion softened her face late at night, the rare moments when her voice cracked during tense meetings, the loneliness that flickered behind her confidence. I never intended to fall for her. It happened the way storms do, quietly at first, then all at once. The challenge was never just loving her, it was surviving her. Rebecca demanded perfection, and I gave her everything I had, often at the cost of my own peace. I stayed late, skipped lunches, answered emails at dawn. I told myself it was discipline, but it was fear. Fear of being fired, fear of disappointing another authority figure. Fear that if I failed here, I would confirm every doubt I carried about myself. My faith wavered in those months. I still prayed, but the prayers felt like echoes instead of conversations. Everything came to a breaking point on a Thursday afternoon. A campaign pitch had gone wrong, not because of negligence, but because of a rushed decision Rebecca herself had made. When the client backed out, the blame rolled downhill and stopped at me. The meeting room felt smaller with every accusation. I stood there absorbing it all, the familiar instinct to apologize even when my heart knew the truth. Something inside me cracked open, a mix of grief for my father, exhaustion from carrying everyone else's expectations, and a love I had never confessed. When Rebecca followed me out into the open office, her voice sharp enough to cut through the silence, she drew a line she expected me to respect. She threatened my job, my stability, the fragile future I was clinging to. That was the moment I stepped forward. The kiss was brief, trembling, and filled with everything I had buried. It was not a victory or a fantasy. It was a confession, raw and unplanned. The aftermath was worse than I imagined. Security was called. HR got involved. I was sent home and told not to return until further notice. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, the city lights blinking outside my window like distant stars. I expected anger or regret, but what I felt was a strange peace. For the first time since my father died, I had acted without fear. I prayed not for my job, but for clarity, for forgiveness if I had crossed a line, and for Rebecca, who I knew was fighting battles I could not see. Days passed, silence stretched. I updated my resume and prepared myself to start over. When the call finally came, it wasn't from HR, it was from Rebecca. She asked me to meet her in a quiet cafe near the river, away from glass walls and company logos. When I arrived, she looked different, smaller somehow, like someone who had taken off heavy armor and didn't yet know how to stand without it. What followed was not romance, not immediately. It was honesty. Rebecca shared pieces of her life I had never imagined, a childhood shaped by constant pressure, a failed marriage, the belief that vulnerability was weakness. She admitted that my action had shaken her, not because of the kiss itself, but because it forced her to confront how deeply she had buried her own humanity. Policies were discussed, boundaries were set. I was transferred to a different department under a different supervisor. The company protected itself, as companies do, but something fragile and real had begun between two imperfect people. The struggle didn't end there. Loving someone like Rebecca meant learning patience, forgiveness, and humility. It meant accepting that healing is not linear and that faith does not erase consequences. We took things slowly, building trust outside office hours, walking along Lake Michigan, talking about fears instead of achievements. I returned to church, not because I needed answers, but because I needed community. My mother reminded me that God works through broken moments, not polished ones. Over time, Rebecca softened, not at work where she remained strong and capable, but in the quiet spaces where titles don't matter. She learned to ask for help. I learned to stand my ground without losing compassion. We both learned that love does not rescue you from hardship, but it gives you courage to face it. If this story has touched your heart even a little, if it reminded you of a moment when truth cost you something but saved you in another way, please take a second now to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement tells us these stories matter. Before this story ends, I have one special request. Please comment below with a single word that represents what you believe in most right now, whether it's faith, hope, forgiveness, or love. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today, years later. When I look back on that moment in the office, I no longer see recklessness or rebellion. I see a man who stopped running from his heart and trusted that honesty, even when messy, could lead somewhere better. Rebecca and I are not perfect, but we are real. And sometimes, in a world obsessed with control and appearances, real is the bravest thing you can be.